Hello, everybody. I'm going to watch a movie that's on Hulu. I was going to go check it out from the library. Actually, I did check it out from the library and I realized it was on Hulu. So I was like, I'm just going to turn this back in so somebody else can check it out. And so I don't have it for too long and try to get, late fees or something. Even though it seems like they don't really charge late fees anymore. Ever since COVID a long time ago, they stopped doing late fees. I don't know. Anyways, so I'm just going to watch it on Hulu instead because I have Hulu. And the movie is The Menu. I've seen the trailers for it when it first started to come out, and I thought this looks right up my alley. Creepy, suspenseful. I want to know what's going on. I want to know what it's about. I feel like there's maybe twists and turns in it. Part of me thinks that it's like a remake of the classic that they've remade a million times, like the story The Westing Game. That's what it's called, right? The Westing Game? Westing Game? Yeah. I read it a long time ago in middle school or high school. I think it was middle school. It wasn't high school. Or it might have even been, I think it was a fifth grade, actually. Not even middle school, which seems dark subject matter to read in the fifth grade, but I did. Our whole class read it. It was like required reading. The Westing Game. Okay. Upon further research, I looked up the Westing Game, and it doesn't seem like it is what I was thinking it was. I think I did read the Westing Game in the fifth grade, which makes sense because it does not seem as dark as I remembered. But I was thinking of the classic story where it's like some rich elite people, they invite somebody or a group of people, and then to some sort of dinner party or something, or some sort of challenge, a hunting party, and then it turns out they're going to hunt the people instead or something. That's what I thought the Westing Game was about. And they've made different movie versions and TV versions, that same sort of classic story redone. But I figured it out. It's actually what I was thinking of as The Most Dangerous Game, which is another classic short story by Richard Cottle from 1924. And I have also read that, I believe. So I was getting the titles mixed up. The Most Dangerous Game. I'm not sure when I read it, but I think I was pretty young. It says the topic of hunting humans has been the subject of several works of fiction. Probably the most famous is in English is The Most Dangerous Game, a 1924 short story by Richard Cottle, which has been adapted dozens of times for film, radio, and television. So that's what I was thinking of. Although, if you look at the Westing Game, in the picture that I posted, one of the covers in particular, it looks like a chef, and it's like pieces of a chess game. It seems very Clue-like, and it does kind of remind me of The Menu as well. So I feel like they took inspiration maybe a little bit from the Westing Game. Anyways, back to the rest of the video. And they've made many different movie versions of that over the years, where it's a group of rich elite type people and they are wanting to hunt humans, and whether they eat them or not, I don't know if that's part of it. I can't remember, but I know that they're wanting to hunt humans. They take some humans, pretend they're gonna go give them a dinner party or something, and then they're like, oh, by the way, we're gonna hunt you and you need to run off in the woods. We're gonna chase after you and hunt you down for our entertainment. I have a feeling it's something like that. It's these people are going to this elite, fancy, super private dinner party thing, like a dinner rave I think it's pronounced Rafe Fiennes. I always question that. It looks like Ralph, but it's not Ralph. It's like Ray Fiennes or Rafe Fiennes. Something like that. Anyways, I love the actor. He played Lord Voldemort in the Harry Potter movies. He's been in a lot of stuff. Schindler's List, I believe, which I have not seen. Is he in Schindler's List? I don't know. I haven't seen that movie. He was in the movie with Jennifer Lopez, Made in Manhattan. He was in Hannibal Lecter movie. Not Hannibal. He was in The Red Dragon, the third movie. Red Dragon. Which actually is the first book, I think. It's first Red Dragon, then Silence of the Lambs, and then Hannibal. In that order. I'm a big fan of the Hannibal Lecter stuff. Hannibal Lecter, movies, TV show, all of that. So when I found out he was in the movie, that was the big selling point, is that he's in the movie. And then I just thought it sounded interesting. Also, it has Nicholas Hoult in it, which I've been seeing in lots of different things, like Renfield, and I think he was in Warm Bodies, and he's in this TV show I want to watch. I don't know. He just keeps popping up all over the place, and I think he's a good actor, a cool actor, an interesting guy, entertaining, and he's in it too. The girl, I don't know. She looks familiar, but I can't tell you what her name is or what she would be in. She looks very familiar though. So yeah, I think it's something like they're going to this fancy dinner party and then, lock doors. Turns out we're eating you guys. Like maybe they have to play some kind of game to see who gets voted off and they're the ones that are going to get cooked up and ate or something weird. Maybe they're going to make them run off into the property and they're going to chase them down and hunt them. I don't know. I feel like there's some sort of cannibalistic thing that happens. And that's the creepy part of it. Nobody has told me that. That's just what I'm inferring with the feel of the trailer. And if it's not that, I don't know what it is. Because there's something creepy going on. They're eating a meal and there's something creepy going on. Like, other than, I don't know what else it could be. Somehow maybe it's like a Russian roulette situation and it's poisoned or something weird. Like, I don't understand, but I think somebody's gonna die. I think it's something creepy. And I can't wait to see it and see what happens. I watched the movie The Menu last night, and it was chef's kiss. Incredible. This is a crazy movie. I loved it. Like, it freaked me out. It's creepy and disturbing, but I loved it. I loved it. And I have so much to say about it. It's crazy. Okay. So I took notes while I was watching the movie, and I'm so glad I did because I would be lost if I hadn't. Because there's so many different crazy things that has happened, transpires in this movie. It is not a simple movie. It is a very complex movie with lots of crazy things that happen and lots of characters to keep up with. Oh, by the way, this is my first time doing this type of video. They might be put out in different orders, but this is the first one I'm doing. This is going to contain a lot of spoilers. A lot of spoilers. I'm basically going to tell you the entire movie and what I thought about it and the craziness of it. So if you haven't seen this movie, either you can watch this because you don't feel like watching the movie and you want me to just tell you all about it, or you might want to watch it beforehand so you don't get spoiled. Also, I don't I don't care about trigger warnings or anything like that. I think they're dumb. But if you're that type of person, I'm warning you right now, trigger warning, this movie is very messed up. And there's a lot of craziness that happens. So if you get bothered by gruesome craziness, self deletion, things of that nature, here's your warning. Okay, here we go. So, the movie opens up with a young couple on like a boat dock, a man and a woman. The man is named Tyler, and the girl is named Margot. I recognize both of them. The guy that plays Tyler, his name is, I always forget, Nicholas Hoult. And the girl, I probably should bring up like the IMDb of the movie here to help me out here. The girl looked familiar, but I did not have a clue what her name was or where I'd seen her from or if I'd seen her, but she seemed familiar. Anya Taylor-Joy plays Margot. And I didn't find out till later when I was watching a different movie reactor react to the movie. His name's Zavid, something like that. He's a very entertaining guy. He watches a lot of horror movies and thrillers and stuff like that. I was watching his reaction and he said that was the girl from Split. And I went, oh my gosh, I had no clue. And I love the movie Split. And I've seen it a bunch of times. I had no clue that was the same girl because she looks so different to me. Some people probably think she's got a very distinct look and she's very recognizable. But to me, I did not recognize her at all. I think she's probably lost a lot of weight. She's changed her hair color. She looks different to me. She's dressed very differently. In this movie, she's wearing a spaghetti strap, very, form-fitting silk little dress with her hair up and jewelry. And in Split, she's dressed very frumpy and, dark clothes, lots of layers, kind of frumpy, hair down. She looks very different. I think I've seen her in other things too. Oh, I haven't seen The Queen's Gambit, but I've seen pictures from it. And I also figured out she's the girl from The Queen's Gambit, which I've heard lots of good things about too. I've had people, like family members, say that I should watch that show, that I would love that show. And I'm like, really? It doesn't sound interesting to me at all. It's about like a expert chess player or something that may be a little bit psycho or something, has crazy visions or something like that. It doesn't sound interesting to me at all. But they're like, trust me, it doesn't matter if you like chess or not. It's just very interesting. So I need to watch it sometime. Anyways, so it starts off with this couple. The guy is obsessed with fancy foods, tasting fancy foods. He's a foodie, I guess you could say. And she seems to be a little bit more like, I don't really care. A little more laid back. She's smoking a cigarette. He gets on to her and says, don't smoke a cigarette. It's going to mess up your palate. And she's like, who cares? To me, they didn't seem like a very good couple. But you don't know how long they've been in a relationship. You don't know anything about them. Or even if they're for sure a couple or not. They just seem like they're presented as a couple. But to me, I was thinking, they don't look like a couple, but I just thought the movie hadn't casted great, and I was like, those two actors, they don't seem like a good couple to me, but whatever. Maybe they're friends. I don't know. So they are going on this boat, and she says, is this boat going to be big enough for everybody? He's like, yeah, there's going to be 12 people. It'll be fine. We're going to this fancy, exclusive, rich people, dinner. To me, it sounded like he was the one with the money and that she maybe didn't have as much money, but you can't really tell for sure. They show 3 guys show up with suits on, look like business guys, rich guys that throw money around type. And he's kind of like, oh, great, they're going to be here, he kind of knows of them or something, and he knows what they're like or something. I don't know. And then this old couple shows up, a man and woman. They seem like a married couple that isn't very happy in their marriage, maybe. To me, they looked like politicians. Like, I thought she might have been a politician. They looked like that kind of old couple that's together for, you know, the look of it, but they're not really happy. Like, they're there, like, they have to pretend like they have a happy marriage, but they're not really. They seemed powerful and rich, too. And when they showed up, Margot kind of gave a weird look, and it seemed like she was kind of trying to hide herself, like she knew them, and she didn't want them to see her. Like, oh God, they're here. I was like, are they her relatives or something? Her parents? Like, surely not her parents, because that would be too close of a relationship unless they're really, estranged from each other. So then they all enter the boat, and you start to meet other characters, other diners. There is a has-been actor guy that maybe used to be a little bit famous, but not so much anymore. Maybe he never really was that famous. He's been in some crappy movies or whatever. He wants to be famous. He wants people to recognize him. He likes to name drop and act like he's friends with all kinds of important people, but he's not. Like, he's just kind of a has-been, And there's a girl with him, which I thought was his date, like his girlfriend or wife or something. But as the movie goes on, you find out she's more like his assistant, like his personal assistant or something. She works for him. And there is very snooty looking man and woman, but I immediately didn't think that they were a couple. They didn't seem like a couple. They seemed like friends. Like maybe he's gay best friend or something, or they're business partners or something. They didn't seem like a couple to me, but who knows? Or when they walk up, they're like, ooh, like she's famous or something. Like, ooh, look at that lady. She's going to be on there. She is like a very famous food critic, I guess, and she writes articles about fancy restaurants and stuff like that. And the guy who works for her, is her friend or something like that. I think he works with her, works for a magazine that she's going to write for or something. So they go onto this island, and this woman named Elsa, she's like a she's kind of like waitress in a way. I don't know what the right word for her is, but she's kind of looks like she's wearing a chef uniform, like a white. Yeah, she's wearing a white shirt. It's kind of odd. It's like a white shirt with suspenders or something. With black. I don't know. It's kind of an odd, unique looking outfit. Her hair's up in a bun, and she's very serious. So Elsa takes them around the island. She shows them the beach, where off in the distance in the water there's a man on a sailboat or whatever, or a boat, and she's like, this is where we get our oysters from. She takes them to this shed where there's meat hanging from hooks, and she's like, this is our dairy cow meat that we let age for 100 and something days perfectly. And one of the guys says, what happens if you let it go one more day than that? And she says, well, then you'll die. In a more creative way. But she says, then the blood vessels will blah, 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 the blah, blah, blah. I don't know. And she says, you'll die, basically. They're like, okay, this is a little bit creepy. She takes them to the building, which is the restaurant where the kitchen is and everything. They go in, and there's this revolving door that just kind of closes behind them, and it looks like there's two guys on either side doing a double lock situation. And Margot is kind of looking back this is all seeming a little weird. She has, you can tell she's kind of, everyone else is just oh, this place is so wonderful and perfect and fancy, and she's kind of I get a weird feeling. You could tell she has more street smarts or something than the rest of them, who just are not paying attention. So they're all sitting down to dinner. There's this kitchen right there in front of them with all these all these chefs that are like just focusing really hard and making everything so perfect, and with like little tweezers and stuff. They're just like, everything's so perfect. And the people are talking to each other, and you start to kind of get to. I was like listening in really hard, trying to get to know all these characters and trying to see how they may be linked to each other or why they may be there, because I felt like something crazy was going to happen. I told you in the intro what I thought it might be like the Westing game. I thought that they were maybe going to be killed, or maybe they were going to be served for dinner, some sort of cannibalistic thing going on, or something weird. I was like, do they all have something bad in their past? Like, are they all bad guys in some way, or something like that, you know? So listening in, I heard the has-been actor guy talking to his partner, and she was talking about how he wanted to start this food channel. He wanted to do a TV show where he traveled around to different countries and tried food and stuff like that, like a food critic, show. And he was not pitching it very well at all. It sounded like he cannot do this job. He sucks. And she's like, I don't even think you can go to Africa with a DUI. I think she said Africa, South America, whatever it is. So I'm like, okay, so he has a DUI. So there's something bad about him. Not just that being a has-been actor is that's not a bad thing exactly. But if you have a DUI, that is a bad thing. You're getting behind the wheel of a car and driving when you're drunk. That's horrible. I do not condone that at all. You could kill innocent people. It's wrong. It's not right. And then the three businessmen, you hear them talking, and the one guy's kind of joking around like, oh yeah, I cheated on my girlfriend or spouse or whatever. Like, yeah, I cheated on her, and yeah, it was my fault. Yeah, who cares? So it's like, okay, so we got a cheater. And then the old married couple, they seem kind of weird, like maybe there was some cheating going on there as well, with either the woman or the guy. At first, they kind of made it seem like the woman, because she was like, oh, I saw so and so the other day. And he's like, okay, like Percy or something. I saw Percy the other day. And the man's like, oh, how are they? And she's like, oh, you know. And it just seemed kind of weird. And the food critic lady, Miss Bloom, and her business partner or whatever, they're sitting there being kind of snarky and just like, oh, I know so much about food, and oh, I'm so, like, you just get this vibe from them, like they're jerks, you know? And Tyler, the main couple, Margot and Tyler is just sitting there obsessing over all of it, and like, oh, we gotta go see what the chefs are doing, and he's talking to one of them saying, oh, are you using this type of machine for this type of method, and blah blah blah. And the guy says, yes, you really know your stuff. And he says Mr. whatever his last name is, Tyler. I didn't pay attention. But he's like, oh, you know my name. And he's like, yeah, we make it a habit to know all of our customers' names. Which I didn't think that was that creepy. Like, if it's that fancy of a place, yeah, they're probably going to memorize the few names of the customers that are coming in. They're probably going to memorize their names and know about them. And, I mean, I didn't think that was that weird. That wasn't a red flag for me. So they sat back down. Oh, I forgot to mention, when they were getting the tour of the island, Elsa showed them where the staff sleeps in this house, just this very plain, basic, like there's no personal belongings. It's just like beds, little twin-size beds right next to each other, in very plain, modern-looking, just beds, and that's it. And she's like, this is where we sleep. And we get up in the early morning and work all day long until late at night. And that's just our life. Like, they do nothing but work, and they have no, like, personal life. And one of the guys says, don't you get burned out? And she gets super serious and is like, burned out? No, we never burn anything. And it's just like, whoa, okay, crazy. So I was getting real strong cult vibes. It just seemed like, if people are willing to live like this and are this obsessed, and it seemed like the way they talked about the chef was like he's like their leader and they all worship him and he's the best. And it's like the chef is a cult leader and these people that work for him are just like brainwashed. And as they're going up to the restaurant, there's a building off to the side, like a cottage type, like a house. And one of them says, what's that? And she says, oh, that's where Chef lives. And he's like, well, can we go look at that? And she's like, no, nobody enters Chef's house. That's off limits. Not even I. Like, none of us can enter that place. Like, okay, weird. So then they go into the restaurant, sitting around, chit-chatting and whatnot. The chef finally shows up, and Tyler's like, oh, there's a chef. It's played by, it looks like Ralph Fiennes, and that's what everybody on the internet keeps saying is Ralph Fiennes, but I could have sworn that it was pronounced like Rafe Fiennes or something. That it wasn't actually pronounced like Ralph. So I don't know what to say. I should have looked it up, I guess, but I didn't. So I guess I'm just going to say Ralph Fiennes like everybody else says. I don't know. I hope I'm not disrespecting his name, but that's what everyone else is saying in reactions and everything, because it looks like Ralph, but I think it's pronounced like Rafe or Ray Fiennes or something like that. Anyways, he plays Chef Slowik. And he's an incredible actor. I love him. Pretty much everything I've seen him in, he's just incredible. He's one of my favorite actors. And when he shows up, Elsa runs over and talks to him, and he stares directly at Tyler's table. And Tyler says, is he staring at me? And I immediately thought, no, he's not staring at you. Which I don't know if everyone else has caught that on when they're watching the movie. But I was thinking, he's not staring at Tyler. He's staring at the girl, Margot. Because, I forgot to mention this too, when they're boarding the boat, Elsa says, Miss Westerbrook or something like that. And Tyler goes, oh, actually, no, it's not her. It's this other girl. And she says, my name's Margot. Which means clearly Tyler doesn't know her last name. They're not that close. He recently broke up with someone else, or he was going to take someone else. And he's taking Margot instead to this dinner. So there's like this awkwardness there. Like, okay, was there a cheating situation? There's lots of mention of like cheating. So it's like, did everybody are they all cheaters? Like, what's going on? So when she goes into the restaurant, Elsa very, like, kind of jerkingly says, you'll be sitting in Miss Westerbrook's spot or whatever. It's like, did you have to say it like that? And then she sits in the spot. There's a little name card with her name on it. She's like, great. Like, I feel like I'm just a replacement. I'm just, whatever. So whenever the chef was staring at the table and Elsa was talking to him, I immediately thought, he's angry because this guest is different. It's not the person that was on the name card. Like, they're all about perfection. Everything is perfectly planned and, so meticulous. They memorize the customers' names. They put out the little place cards. Everything is so perfect. And this is a different girl than what was supposed to come. And I also assumed something creepy was going to happen. So I'm like, okay, he's angry because that girl's different. That's why he's staring. He's not really staring at Tyler, maybe, necessarily. I think he's staring at Margot. Like, why are you here? Who are you? That sort of situation. And that was creepy. Also, Tyler is obsessed with taking pictures of the food. He's always, and Elsa says to everyone, the group, before they're served anything, she says, please do not take any pictures of the food because we don't want, the chef does not want people to take a picture of the food. We want it to be this private affair or whatever. But Tyler does not listen to that, and he still is like, taking pictures of the food, tried to sneak it or whatever. And he's absolutely obsessed. The first speech that the chef makes, which every time the next course is introduced, the chef steps up in front of everybody and he does a loud clap, like a really loud clap that gets everybody's attention. And it kind of, when you're watching the movie, you just kind of get shocked, like, whoa, what was that? It's just a loud clap. And it really gets everyone's attention. Everyone shuts up, everyone stares, and then he starts to make like a speech of sorts. Like, this is the first course, and this is why, and this is what it's about, or whatever. Like, each course symbolizes something, and it's telling a story, or whatever. I didn't realize how important all of that was, so I wasn't paying super close attention to the first course. But I have rewatched it by watching other reactors and things like that. So I honestly couldn't even remember what the first course was until rewatching it back. When they were on the boat going to the island, they were served these oysters, which looked absolutely disgusting to me. And they ate them, and Tyler was going crazy about it. Margot was like, I'd prefer just like a plain oyster. And he was like, how dare you say that? So you could tell from there that she has simpler tastes, or she just doesn't. It's not that she has simpler tastes necessarily, but she just isn't into all this fancy stuff and I don't know what the word is, but you know what I mean. So they're served. He says the first dish is like called the island, I believe, and it's like a rock with looks like moss and weird stuff on top of it. It doesn't look appetizing to me at all. So they give them this very fancy, meticulously made dish where they use little tweezers to put everything in place, every little blade of grass and every little flower, and it looks like a little island, basically. Didn't look appetizing to me at all. It looks weird. Didn't look like food to me. But that's what they served. It's called like the island, which to me is like the island that they're on right now. Also, they mentioned that it was a 4-hour long dinner. Quite long. I don't know if this was during the first speech of the first dish or if it was during the second speech, but I wrote down a quote that the chef said that intrigued me and made me think, does this mean something? He said, accept all of it and forgive. I was like, accept all of it and forgive. That sounds like it's something important. He's saying all of them have done bad things and they need to accept it, and they need to forgive, or he needs to forgive, or like, it kind of seemed strange. It's like, okay. And the next dish is where it starts to hit the fan. It starts to get strange. He makes a speech about how bread is important to people and how it was, Jesus said, share your bread, divide the bread, whatever. That people, common people, savor the bread, like bread is for the common people or whatever. But he says that they are not the common man, so they get no bread. Like, you guys are more elite. You're not the common man, so you have no bread. And he just gives them this platter that has little round little drops of some kind of sauces or something that you would dip the bread in, but it's just the sauces and nothing else. And he gives it to everybody. There's like a little card that says they're not going to get any bread. And the food reviewer lady is like, oh, how cheeky. There's kind of mixed reviews on it. Some people think it's kind of cool that he's doing that it's artistic. Like Tyler, for instance, he thinks it's artistic and there's nothing wrong with it. And others are mad about it. Like the three businessmen. They're kind of like, I would like some bread. Like, what the heck? So the businessmen wave Elsa over and they say, you know, we don't want to do this, but do you know who we are? Like, we're really powerful. We have a lot of money. We have a lot of influence. We can get what we want. We could shut this restaurant down if we want. So can you just give us some bread and some gluten-free bread for my friend over here? And she's like, no. And they're like, come on, give us some bread. And she's like, no, I am not. No, you're not getting any bread. And I love her character, Elsa. She's so interesting. I love how blunt she is, how she just tells people like it is. Like, no, you're not getting it. She doesn't crack at all. And she is just so serious. And she's kind of funny in a way. Like, it's funny how she just, like, sticks up for herself in a way. Like, she's just like, no. Like, she's in the service industry, but at the same time, she doesn't take anybody's crap. And she throws in little jabs and insults. And it's like she's got nothing to lose. And I love it. I don't know how to pronounce it, but the actress that plays her, Hong, sorry, I'm like nasally, Hong Chau, Hong Chau, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, Chau, Hong Chau. She, I don't think I've ever seen her in anything before, but she was incredible. She should have won Best Supporting Actress for this movie. I think she was one of the best actors in the movie. She was so good. All of them, all the acting was really good, I think. She whispers into one of the businessmen's ear, and it's so creepy and intense. She says, I hope I can remember it. She says, you will not get as much as you desire, but that will be still more than you deserve. Something like that. You will not eat as much as you desire, but you will still get more than you deserve. Which is like the worst insult ever. Like, also, the chef says, do not eat, taste, because our food is so good that it's worth more than you just eating it. You need to taste it and savor it and stuff like that. Which, that part annoyed me because I was in this mindset watching the movie. Everybody's so meticulous and so like obsessed with everything being perfect and everything so great. And he said, do not eat, taste. And then at least 2 more times after he said that, he says, eat. And I'm like, you said don't eat. You said taste. And Margot calls him on it the first time. She says, but you said don't eat. You said taste. And he's like, you know what I mean. And got like an attitude about it. I was like, I'm on her side. You did. You said do not eat. You said taste. And now you're demanding that she eats. You said not to eat. When I get into that mindset, that's the way I think too. And then later he yells, eat, like very angrily. And I'm like, you said don't eat. So that part annoyed me because I'm like, he's so meticulous and so about every little detail. And he made a point to say, do not eat, taste. And then he's demanding that people eat. But maybe that's even deeper metaphor for something later on in the movie. I'm not for sure. Maybe, I don't know if they did that on purpose or if it was just a mistake in writing in the script or whatever, or they're saying he's flawed just like everyone else. I don't know. But that part kind of annoyed me, that he made a point to say, do not eat, taste, and then he at least 2 more times after that said, eat. It's like, what? Why'd you even say that then? If that's not what you were meaning. I know it's a stupid little thing, but that's just what I was thinking. The Miss Bloom, the food critic, insults the bread sauce. There's like this little round sauce. I don't know what she was talking about, but she was pointing at it saying it was doing something, separating or something. And she's like, a restaurant of this caliber shouldn't be doing this. This is just, oh. And her partner was looking at it like, oh, yes, it's, something is wrong with it. I don't know what it was. The chef was listening, and he was staring at daggers into her. And then Elsa comes over and gives her this big old bowl full of that stuff. It's like, here, compliments or from the chef or whatever. It's like, oh, he hears you. He knows what you're saying, lady. Okay, so they also show whenever they entered the room, there was an old lady sitting by herself at a table. She was already there. This old lady kind of has this dazed look on her face, like she's just kind of out of it. Just sitting there like a zombie and drinking like wine and just kind of like she's just out of it or something. And not talking and just sitting over there, very strange. I assumed, I don't know why, just looking at her, I was like, I bet that's a chef's mother for some reason. I was like, I feel like she's his mother. And maybe there's something weird going on there. There's a story there. Margot, the first 2 plates that they give them, the island and the no bread plate, Margot doesn't eat any of it. Tyler steals the food off her plate for the first one. Second one, he tries again, and he knocks a wine glass over and breaks it on the floor. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And the waitress is over there cleaning it up. He's like, oh gosh, he keeps worrying about making the chef mad. He's like, oh, I think I made the chef mad. I'm so worried. And Margot's just like, why do you care? Why are you so obsessed? This is very strange. The chef comes up to Margot and says, why aren't you eating? I've perfectly prepared everything. She's like, I don't want to get filled up. There's plenty more food coming. It's fine. He's like, no, I perfectly planned everything, so you will not get full. It's all perfectly portioned out. She's like, I can choose when I eat and when I don't. Thank you very much. And he's just like, walks away, and you can tell he's mad. Then she, with the no bread situation, again, she's not eating. Then the third dish comes out, third course, is called memory. And this is where stuff really hits the fan. The chef goes over to the old lady that's sitting there looking like a zombie, drinking wine, staring off into space. The mysterious woman that he had already at one point after talking to Margot about why she wouldn't eat his food, and she basically told him, I have the right to choose when I eat or not. He went over to that old lady and he put his forehead to her forehead and just kind of sat there for a second, like he was stressed out, and she was calming him down or something. And everyone was kind of looking over there at him like, what is going on? Well, he goes over to her and says, this is my mother, and she's very drunk right now. And everyone kind of is like, I guess that's funny. I don't know. Kind of awkward. And he starts to talk about how his father was a drunk and abusive. And that his mom got mad and his dad started to choke her. I think he says with a phone cord. Started choking her. And so to stop him from doing that, the chef stabbed him in the thigh with a pair of kitchen scissors. Well, then the third course comes out, and it's chicken thighs with a pair of scissors stuck in it. And there's also tortillas, which he proudly says that they use this new type of printer, some sort of thing that like makes a picture onto the tortillas. You can print like an image onto the tortillas. And the tortillas are closed up in this little silver metal thing that's like clasped them up so you can't see them right away. And people open them up like a present to see what is printed onto their tortillas. And that's when it gets even more creepy, because it was already creepy because he's talking about this emotional trauma from his childhood, this abusive situation as a memory. And he's like, this meal is about memories. And it's a chicken thigh with a pair of scissors stuck in it. I mean, that's a little creepy. That's a lot of creepy. Oh, and he also says, I should have stabbed him in the throat, but, I was being a silly kid and I just, wasn't thinking straight. I would really like to know what happened to his father, because it never tells. Like, what happened to his father after that point. And he kind of is joking about, when I was a kid, we had Taco Tuesday, and now he's serving these with the chicken thigh with the scissors in it. There's the tacos, but these are fancy tacos with images printed on them. Soft tacos. So Miss Bloom, the food critic, she opens her taco first, and the guy with her is like, what's on them? And she's like, oh, it's restaurants. Oh, how fancy. At first she seems kind of impressed. Like, oh, they're restaurants. And then she's like, these are all restaurants that I reviewed and they closed down. Meaning she must have like reviewed them really bad and then they closed down after that because of her negative reviews of their food and people take it so seriously. So she kind of caused these restaurants to have to shut down, perhaps. So he's like, oh, so it's like a cruel joke. And they're still kind of like, it's so funny. Like, oh, he's just taking a little stab at us, a little dig. The older couple, she says, the first tortilla says happy anniversary. And then there's other tortillas with images on them. And she's like, it's us. She's like, oh, this is you with your melanoma or whatever, like some kind of cancer or something. Like he's in the doctor's office. It's weird. And then there's a picture of her husband with another woman sitting at a table, kind of like he's cheating on her. And she's like, who is this? And he's like, oh, this is fake image. It's nobody. Tyler's tortillas have images of him at that dinner taking pictures of the food, because he was trying to secretly take pictures after they told him not to. So the images are of him taking pictures of the food, and he's like, do you think they're mad at me? Do you think he's upset with me? I didn't know that he would mind. And Margot's just like, they have no right to do this. This is stupid. Just say you want to send the food back. Say you don't like this. And he's like, you do not send the food back at this restaurant. You child. And he just starts getting really aggressive with her. And she's like, you have no right to talk to me like that. You need to apologize. And he's like, no. So she gets mad and takes off to the bathroom, or to try to find the bathroom or perhaps an exit of some sort. I really think she was trying to find the exit, but she claimed she was trying to find the bathroom. The actor, the guy that wants to be famous, he printed on his tortillas are images from this movie that he did that was a really bad script, really bad movie, and he's kind of embarrassed that he did that movie. I guess it got really bad reviews and stuff. People thought it was a really bad movie that he did. So he's like, well, it was good memories doing that movie, but it was kind of a dud or whatever. It doesn't show what his assistant's tortillas look like, I don't think. So I don't know what hers would have. It doesn't show Margot's, which I would assume had something to do with the other girl that he would have brought, not Margot, but the other girl, because it was curated for her. And then it shows the three businessmen. It has like bank statements and stuff on their tortillas showing these charges that it shows that they're stealing money from the company or something. There's fraudulent things that they're doing, and they're like, wait a minute, this is not right, and blah blah blah, and they're just like, basically like, we have information on you, we see that you're stealing from the company or whatever. And they're like, oh, is this gonna be held up in court? Like, what are they gonna do? And they're like, oh, we don't need to worry, we don't need to worry. So they're panicking about that. Margot goes to the bathroom. She goes down the hallway, and the girl, Elsa, she follows her, the waitress lady. She follows her and says, can I help you? There's like a silver door at the end of the hallway, and she says, you're like, what's behind there? And she's like, oh, you can't go behind the silver door. Like, there's something special there. She's like, well, I'm trying to find where the bathroom is. And she says, right this way. And leads her into this super fancy bathroom. So Margot climbs up to where there's a window. There's a long, skinny window, and she's smoking a cigarette out the window. And she sees this guy walking across the yard with this giant pair of white wings. Looks like a giant, like, angel wings, or perhaps a swan, or a goose maybe, but that was my guess, is that it was a swan or a goose. Big old white wings walking across the yard. Kind of weird. And then the chef walks in the door and like locks it behind him or something. And she's like, you can't be in here. And he's just staring at her all creepily. She's just like, okay. So Margot gets down from the window and goes over to the sink, and she's just trying to keep her cool while this chef is just standing there staring at her. And she's just like, okay, this is creepy. She tries to wash her hands, whatever. And he says, who are you? And she's like, I'm Margot. Like, he's like, no, you're not. Who are you? Like, why are you here? You're not supposed to be here. And I was thinking, is she maybe undercover? My thoughts were, maybe she's a cop. Maybe she's undercover. Maybe this has been going on for a while. They've been having these fancy dinners and people have been disappearing. And so now she went undercover, weaseled her way in, and she's not really a Margot, she's detective whatever, and she's trying to infiltrate it. Maybe that's what it is. Or maybe she had a loved one that died at a previous dinner, so she's trying to figure out what's going on. Because she seemed kind of suspicious the whole way in. She seems different than the other people, and she was not meant to be there. So that's what my thoughts were, that maybe she's an undercover detective of some sort. She says her name is Margot, and she says she's from Nebraska, and she says something about growing up in a trailer park or something. My thought was, that girl is not from Nebraska, but maybe it's just a movie thing, but I don't know. That character did not seem like she was some trailer park Nebraska girl to me, because I'm from Oklahoma. I grew up in a trailer, and I just felt like that didn't really fit. But I don't even know where the actress is from, to be honest, so who knows? Where is the actress from? She seems like a city girl to me. In Split, she seemed like more of a country girl. Oh, she's British American. Oh, she was born in Miami. Youngest of 6 children. Her father is Scottish, who was born in South America. Whoa, she's all over the place. Her mother is Spanish-English, who was born in Zambia in Africa. Whoa, okay, so her dad is Scottish. Her dad is Scottish, but he's born in South America. Her mother is Spanish and English, but born in Africa. And she's American English? I'm so confused. There's so many different things going on. She was raised in Argentina, then moved to London when she was 6, where the family lived in Victoria. She attended Northlands School in Buenos Aires, the preparatory school Hill House and Queen's Gate School in London, and is a former ballet dancer. Wow. Very interesting. So she was born in Miami, Florida, but she's been all over the place. She's not a Nebraska trailer park type of girl. Ugh. Ow. So she goes back out to sit down again, ticked off at Tyler because he's just insulted her. He called her a child, told her to shut up, and told her to eat. And he's just he's like completely just obsessed with the food and just like in his own little world. He's acting very strange. But he acts even stranger going forward to where you're like, what is wrong with this guy? There's something wrong with him. Or he himself knows what's going on and is a part of it and is insane. So the next course comes up, which I guess is the fourth course. And the chef introduces his sous chef, I guess, named Jeremy. And Jeremy is standing there all serious, completely serious. And he starts talking about Jeremy, saying that he is excellent, he's very, very good at what he does, but he will never be as good as him. And he's basically sitting there putting Jeremy down, saying he has done everything to try to get here to work for me. He has groveled and he is worshipped at my feet, but he will never, ever be at the same caliber as me. And you could just see Jeremy, like, in his mind, he's just cracking, like, he says this dish was created by Jeremy or something, and it's called The Mess. So they start putting these, like, branches down on the ground. They put, like, a blanket or a tarp or something and put some, like, branches on the floor, and, like, what is going on? And I was completely blindsided. I don't know why, because it may have been obvious to some people what was about to happen, but I knew something crazy was going to happen, but I was not expecting this. And usually I could see this a mile away in movies when someone does this, but I did not expect this. And I jumped back and was like, oh! Like screamed. My mouth was wide open when it happened. Jeremy just takes a gun and puts it in his mouth and self-deletes himself. Just so quick, so right in front of everybody. Everyone starts screaming and jumps up. The food critic lady especially, she jumps right up. It's like she's trying to get out of the room immediately. Everybody's like, I want out of here. This is crazy. Because things were creepy and kind of weird, but everyone was just, oblivious to it. And they're just like, oh, it's a part of the art and it's a part of the whatever. But this was a straw that broke the camel's back. Well, unfortunately, not for everybody. Some people were still thinking, oh, this is just fake. This is just art. Like Tyler, especially. He had a big smile on his face and acted like nothing was wrong. And Margot's staring at him like, are you insane? And he's just like, oh, it's fine. And then the food critic lady and her partner start to sit back down and they're like, oh, this has to be fake. This is just this is not real. And so some of the others are like, this is a fake. This is not real. It was an actor, staged. Which, to be honest, I mean, it's such a crazy thing to happen that I probably would have thought the same thing if I was at this super fancy weird dinner where he served thighs with scissors stuck in them and things like that. I would probably think it was a staged thing as well, because you don't think that this is really happening in real life. Like, it's so crazy and out there. But the old man and the old couple, the cheating couple, he's like, I'm not having it. We're leaving. And he grabs his wife and she's like, well, what about my shawl? And he's like, forget your shawl. Like, come on, we're leaving. And they start heading towards the door. But like a whole bunch of chef type of guys, whatever they are, they block the door And the Elsa lady walks up all calmly, and she's like, "Can I help you? Like, what are you trying to do?" And he's like, "We're leaving. I want to go. I want to leave. Go out the store." And she's like, "No, you're not." Like, just so calm. And he's like, "I am leaving. I'm going to use my hands. I'm going to leave." And she's like, something to the effect of, "Which hand are you going to use? Your right or your left?" And then they don't let him leave, and they like tackle him down, and she's like, "Take his ring finger." And they put his hand down and chop off his ring finger, which is pretty symbolic because he was a cheater, and so he lost his wedding ring finger. And he's just bleeding and screaming, and she just calmly picks up the ring off the floor and hands it to his wife and says, "Here, madam, here's your husband's ring." And she's just like, "Thank you." Like, shocked. So in my notes I wrote, Tyler doesn't give a fuck. He does not give two shits about what's going on. He's just smiling, enjoying the food, acting like a crazy person. And people are still thinking that this is fake. The food critic lady, even after the guy gets his finger chopped off, she thinks this is fake. That this is all for her benefit. "Oh, he invited me here especially, and this is all a joke on me. It's all to try to you know, because I gave him a bad review in the past or whatever. He's invited me here, did all this stuff to try to freak me out. It's all fake. And that guy over there was an actor. They pretended to cut his finger off. Oh," it's like, come on, lady. Come on. The chef goes up to the couple where the guy just got his finger chopped off. People are like, "We want to know why you're doing this." He tells that couple that they have ate at his restaurant many, many times in the past. More times than anyone else would have the opportunity to. And they can't even remember how many times they've gone. The husband says probably about 8. And the wife's like, "I think it was more than that." And the chef says, "You've been here 11 times. And do you remember a single dish? We told you the dishes in detail beforehand. Do you remember a single dish from the last time you were here?" And they cannot tell him a single dish because they didn't really appreciate it. They didn't really care because they're so rich and privileged. They get to do this all the time, and they just didn't really soak it in or care. And she says, "The cod?" And he says, "No, it was a halibut. And you're disrespecting the fish." Also, he calls Margot back to his office or whatever and talks to her and says that they are all gonna die. He says she wasn't meant to be there, and she could choose which side she wants to be on. She could be with the chef's side, or she could be with the people, the scum people that he considers not worthy of living anymore. The elite, people. He says, "I think you belong with the chefs. I think you're one of us. You're like from the working class." And he asks her again who she is, and she admits that she works as an escort, that she's in the service industry, as in she's like a sex worker, an escort. And she says that she worked for that old man that got his finger cut off, that he hired her, and she had to just sit there and watch him while he pleasured himself. And she said that was pretty normal, except he asked me to say that he wanted her to tell him that he was a good man, that he was a nice, good man, and that he wanted her to pretend that she was his daughter. Creepy. And that part disturbed her. So she was hired by Tyler as an escort because his girlfriend broke up with him and he needed somebody to take with him. So they go back out and the chef approaches Tyler and says, we have an issue that we need to resolve. So he basically spills the beans that he has been corresponding with Tyler. Tyler knew all along that they were all going to die, and he did not care because he's so obsessed with the food. I guess he was willing to die and did not care. And his girlfriend broke up with him, so he needed to bring a second person because the chef would not allow for just a single person to come alone. It had to be at least two. So he hired Margot knowing that she was going to die, and he didn't care at all. And so Margot jumps across the table and starts smacking him across the face and attacking him, and the other chef type people hold her back, and she's furious at him because he knew full well what was going to happen, and he hired her to just die because he did not care. So then the next course happens, I guess. The three businessmen, they start arguing and say, we're going to shut this place down. We can own this place. We know the owner, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yes, I don't completely own this place. There is a guy above me that like owns the place or whatever. But then he shows out the giant window up above like this lake or I guess they're on an island, so it's probably the ocean. I don't know. Water source of some sort. There's a guy with giant angel wings, the same wings that Margot saw out the bathroom window. There is a man in a business suit with these giant angel wings being tethered up above, like he's tied up and hanging above the water, high up in the air. And he says, you know, this is a fallen angel. We're watching this. This is the guy that owns the whole thing. And he slowly lets him down and he drowns. And just the acting that Ralph Fiennes does is so great. The way he's like sitting there just savoring the drowning of this man. And he's like, now I'm free. Which you're not, but okay. You're free to die. Like, you wouldn't be free because you just murdered a man that, whatever. In his screwed up mind, he's free now. I wrote a line from the chef where he said, basically, try to satisfy people that will never be satisfied. Because these people will never be satisfied. And it's killing him to try to satisfy these people that will never be satisfied. So then they go outside. And another sous chef is introduced, a woman. She says that the chef made unwanted advances towards her on multiple occasions. She said no, and it was awkward, and she continued to work there. Then he walks up to her and looks, and they're like face to face with each other, and she takes a pair of scissors and stabs him in the crotch region, and everyone's like, oh, like, did she just stab him in the junk? And then she steps back and he says, I'm sorry. And then he pulls it out. It's actually in his leg, but it's real close, but it was in his leg, and he pulls it out and acts like it was no big deal. And everyone's just like, oh my God, these people are crazy. And he says that he's now going to give, that this next meal is called Man's Folly, or Male Folly. I think it's Man's Folly, the 6th course. And he says that he's going to give the men a chance to escape. And they have 45 seconds to run. Just run into the woods, try to escape, whatever. And that the chefs are going to chase after them. the workers or whatever. So the one of the businessmen, he takes off immediately. Like, he doesn't give him a chance to finish his sentence. He's out. And so the chef says, "Well, I guess it starts right now then." So all the men kind of stand there for a second, like, "Oh, we should be men and, stay here with our wives or the women or whatever and try to protect them." But they all cowered out and they all take off running and leave the women behind. The old man with his finger cut off, he says, I'll send help as soon as I can. And he runs off and leaves his wife standing there like. And then the actor guy, he's like, "Here, hold my scarf." And he like throws his scarf at the girl and runs off. And the businessmen run off. And Tyler is just standing there like with a big smile on his face, like he just doesn't care. He doesn't want to run off. He's like, "I'm fine." And the chef looks at him and is like, You need to go too. You need to go." And he's like, "Oh man." And he like walks off slowly, like he just does not care about running away. And of course, the partner of the food critic, he also runs away. All the men run, and the girls are left standing there, shocked, not knowing what's going to happen next. The chef, I guess, also takes off, disappears, and the woman sous chef says, "It's a little chilly out here. We should go inside, ladies." So they all go inside, and they eat this meal that's man's folly. And then it shows all these the chef type of men taking off after the men, like just bolting off after the men into the woods. And they're like, "Oh God, they have no chance." They look like they were trained by the Marines or something. So the women are just kind of sitting around having girl talk in a way with this sous chef lady. And they're like, "Tell us the truth. Are we gonna die?" And she's like, "Yes, you're all gonna die." And they're like, she's like, "Well, it doesn't work if you live." And they're like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "The menu. It's everyone has to die." And they're like, and the food critic lady, she's like, "You're such a good chef. I could get you your own restaurant and stuff. I could get you." And she's like, "Oh yeah, I don't care about that." She's like, "Actually, I was the one that pitched that everyone should die. It was my idea, and I'm proud of that." Like, oh God. Margot admits that her name is not Margot, that her name is actually Erin, and she's not from Nebraska, she's from Massachusetts, which makes more sense to me. And the woman who had the husband whose finger was cut off, who was cheating on her, she says, "You know my husband, don't you?" And she says, Yes, I do." They find all of the guys and they drag them back to the restaurant. The last guy to be found was the food critic's partner. He was hiding in the chicken coop. So they open the chicken coop door and he's just sitting there like, scared, hiding. And they say, "For the last one that was found, we have a special treat." And it's like some sort of chicken egg thing, like, I don't know, a dessert or something that's like chicken egg inspired. It's just like, "Oh, well, I guess I'll eat it." Like, it looks good. I mean, if you're gonna die anyways, you might as well eat the good food, right? The next course is called Tyler's Bullshit. And the chef, confronts Tyler about how he knew everything the whole time and he took Margot and all of this type of stuff. He takes him, he puts a chef jacket on him. He writes his name on it, Tyler. He says, "Cook for us. I want you to go into the kitchen and cook." And Tyler's like, "I can't." He's like, you must go cook for us. And what ingredients do you want?" And Tyler obviously has no clue what he's doing. And he starts asking for different ingredients, like leeks and chives or something, onions. I don't know. He starts cutting them all up, all weird. And the chef is kind of making fun of him while he's watching him, say, "Oh, what a great technique. Never seen someone chop an onion up like that before." And you could tell Tyler seems really nervous. He makes this meal of like pork chops with some vegetables around it. It looks disgusting. It looks undercooked. The chef takes a bite and he says, "Well, this is really quite bad. This is not good at all." And Tyler, you could just see he's like cracking mentally. His eyes are watering and he's just like, the chef says that Tyler basically drains the mystery from the art of the food because he sits there and dissects it all and talks about all the different ways you can make it, but he doesn't know how to do it himself. And the chef whispers something in Tyler's ear. You can't hear what he says. And Tyler's eyes are watering. You could tell he is very like upset. And he just walks off. He starts taking his tie off and he walks off to the back after taking the chef jacket off and everything, which I assumed meant he was going to go off and self-delete himself, take himself out, is what it seemed like. He takes Erin, I'm going to call her Erin now because the cat's out of the bag. She's not Margot, she's Erin. Erin gets taken to the back with the chef. He says, "You're one of us, one of the staff, and there's a barrel that's missing that my assistant here, Elsa, she forgot to assign somebody to bring in this barrel that we need for the next course." And you can tell Elsa's like, "What? Like, I don't mess up. I don't make mistakes." But she won't question the chef. She's just like, "What?" And he says, "Margot, you're going to go get the barrel because you're one of us." And he makes Elsa give her the keys to go off to get the barrel. So she like walks off to the shed or whatever where the barrel's supposed to be. But on the way, she's like, "I'm going to see if she goes over to the chef's cabin and goes into there to explore around and see what's going on. And it looks just like the restaurant. It's like a mirror image, the same exact thing, except there's a bed. There's also a kitchen, just the same. There's a hallway going down, just the same, with a silver door, just like the restaurant. It looks a lot the same. And she's like, "What the heck?" So she goes towards the silver door, and she hears Elsa behind her saying, "Nobody's allowed in the chef's cabin, or the chef's cottage. Nobody's allowed in here." And I was thinking, but you're in here. You said you're not even allowed in here, but you're in here right now. So what are you talking about, lady? But yeah, she's in there. She tries to stop her. They get into a knife fight where Elsa's trying to stab her with the knife, and she says, "You're not going to replace me. You're not going to be my replacement. And the chef never told me about that barrel." So you could tell the chef didn't tell her about the barrel, or else she would have got somebody to get that barrel, because she's a perfectionist and she does not mess up. And she thinks that the chef is testing her or something, or he's trying to replace her with this new girl. And she's very upset and crazed in her mind because she's so obsessed. And Erin ends up stabbing her in the neck with a knife, and she jumps back and screams and is just like, freaking out because of what she's done, which I thought was excellent acting. It's one of the best reactions I've seen to killing someone in a movie in a long, long time. Because usually it's not very believable, I don't think. But the way she acted was very believable. I thought that was excellent. Oh, and I forgot to mention, whenever Erin went to go get the barrel, she passes by a room where she sees Tyler hanging. He's hung himself with his tie, I guess. The back in the restaurant, the chef is talking to the guests, and the actor wants to know why he's there. And the chef tells him that he saw the movie he was in, the one that was printed on the tortilla, Dr. Sunshine or something? Paging Dr. Sunshine? Calling Dr. Sunshine or something like that. Anyways, he says it's the most pettiest reason ever, and I love it because it's kind of funny in a way because it's so crazy. But the chef says that he hadn't had a day off from work in a long time, and it was his day off. It was a Sunday, and he went alone to the movies and saw that guy's movie, and he hated it. And whenever he absolutely hated it. It was a waste of his time, waste of his precious day off of work. And the actor's like, but I didn't make the movie. I'm not like the producer of the movie. I just was an actor in it. He's like, yeah, but when I see your face, it just annoys me because your face was in that movie. And it's ingrained. And I hate it so much. So that's why he's killing him. And his assistant is like, well, what about me? I didn't do anything. And he's like, did you go to college? And she says, yes. Where'd you go to college? I went to Brown. He's like, did you have student loans? And she said, no. He said, okay, you deserve to die. So basically because her parents were rich, or she had money to pay for college without taking out student loans. A nice college, I assume. Brown, I think, is a nice college. I'm not for sure. That she is an elite, privileged, rich person, and she needs to die too. It doesn't matter. While Erin is in the chef's house and she's killed Elsa, she goes into the silver door. And in the silver door is like a little room with like a shrine for the chef with different pictures on the wall. There's a picture of his review from the food critic. There's a picture of him opening up that restaurant. All the pictures, he looks serious and not very happy. And then there's a framed picture on like a pedestal that's like important. And it's showing him when he was young. And he's got a spatula with a hamburger patty on it. And it says like employee of the month at some little, hamburger joint. And he's got a big smile on his face. And he looks happy. And she leaves and goes back to the restaurant and throws that giant barrel into the restaurant like, I'm back, I'm here. She's covered in blood from killing Elsa. And the chef doesn't question any of it. He's just like, whatever, she's here, she's back. Oh, and also, when she's in the shrine room, there's a radio, and she goes up to the radio, like, quickly trying to call for help. While she's sitting back in the restaurant, you hear noise and see lights, and you see a big boat coming up on the water, rescue coming, that she called. And the other customers are getting excited, like, oh my gosh, she called for help. And they ask, did you call for help? And she's like, yes. The chef immediately goes into quick, like, people coming, we need to clean this place up. They start bandaging people up. They're forcing that guy with the cut off finger to get into an arm cast, and they're like quickly trying to clean things up. And this one single guy comes in from the boat, and he has a gun on his hip or whatever, and he's like, did somebody call for help? Was there a distress call made from here? And the chef's like, oh, nothing's going wrong. We're just sitting here eating. But you can tell on everyone's faces that there's something happening. Like, everyone's freaked out. But nobody wants to say anything because the chef said, if any of you guys say anything, you're going to kill this man. He's going to be killed immediately. So they're not saying anything. Well, then he spots that actor and he says, don't I know you? And the actor's like, yes, you do. And he asks, and the chef says, do you want to have his autograph? he's like, oh, I don't want to bother him. And the actor's like, no, 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 I'll give you an autograph, but I don't have a piece of paper or anything. So the chef provides a pen and paper for him to give an autograph. So the chef knows what's going on. He's not scared. That's why I was like, there's something more to this. So he writes on a piece of paper, gives it to the guy. The guy's like, thank you so much. And he turns around to leave. He opens it up, and the paper says, help me, or help us, something like that. The guy, it's like, what are you going to do? Please keep going out the door and go get back up. But he doesn't. He turns around. He points a gun at the whole crowd. Everyone starts freaking out, jumping up. He's like, everybody sit down. Put your hands up. They're like, it's a chef. It's a chef. He's evil. He's trying to kill us. And they're pointing at him and stuff. And the other staff. And he looks at the chef and says, get down on your knees. Put your hands above your head or whatever. And then he slowly takes the gun, bends down, and lights a candle on Erin's table in front of her, because the gun is actually a lighter. Like the fire comes out the end. It's a lighter. He lights the candle and stands there with a smile on his face. And they're like, he's with them. He's not really rescue. And the chef talks to him. Is like, oh, thank you. You did such a good job. And the guy goes off to the back like, yeah, I'm one of you guys. I'm a worker, whatever. Like he's just one of them. The chef goes over to Erin and says, you betrayed us. You're not one of us. Because she went and called for help on the radio. And he turns around and goes back to the kitchen to do the next course or whatever. Erin stands up, and the most awesome thing ever. She stands up and does a big clap, just like he did at the start of all the courses. Huge clap. Commands attention from the entire room. The chef stops what he's doing. They all stare at her. The guests are all looking at her. And she says, I'm not satisfied with my food. I don't like your food. And he's like, and we're like, okay, what's going to happen now? So the chef comes out and he's like, well, what were you not satisfied with? And she says, your food tastes like there's no love in it. And he's like, oh, we put lots of love in it. She's like, no, your food tastes like it's made with just obsession. You're just obsessed. There's no love in it. It's just obsession. Even your hot foods are cold. Something like that. And he says, well, what would you like? And she says, I want a cheeseburger. Not a fancy, pretentious cheeseburger. I want a good, basic cheeseburger. With American cheese. And he says, how would you like it? She says, medium. He says, I can do that. And she says, how much, are there any fries? He's like, do you want, crinkle cut or the regular? And she's like, will it come with a drink? Like, she's like, how much will that set me back? And he says, $9.95 or something like that. $9.98 or something. She's like, okay, that sounds good. And you could tell he's happy with this. He's got a smile on his face. Because back when he was making these burgers is when he was happy. And now that he's making all this fancy stuff and to all these people that are not satisfied, he's lost his love for all of it. So he goes back himself and cooks this burger for her, serves it to her. She takes a bite, puts it down. He says, how do you like it? She says, that is a good cheeseburger. And she says, but my eyes were bigger than my stomach. I can't eat it all. Can I get a to-go container? And we're all like, is he going to like that? Or is that a good thing or an insult? Is he going to go for that? She's trying it. Is it going to work? And he's like, okay, one moment. And he goes and gets to-go container, boxes it all up for her, gives her a to-go bag. and says, okay, thank you. You can go now. And so she gets up, takes her stuff, and walks out. And she looks back at the people like, I'm so sorry I'm leaving you behind. I feel guilty about this. And the lady that had the cheating husband, she goes, kind of like that, like, go, get out of here. You need to survive. And I love that they put that in there. And I love that it was the woman that, Aaron had to work as a, you know, service worker for that lady's husband. And she could be mad at her, even though it's not her fault. But she's not. And she's like, go, girl. You deserve it. Like, please get out of here. I love that it was her that did it. I love that they put that in there. It's like she was accepting her fate. So Aaron walks out of there. Then the chef says, now that's the final course, the dessert or whatever, it's going to be s'mores. There's these chefs making all these designs on the floor. They put some giant marshmallows on sticks in the middle. They put these ridiculous marshmallow vest things, or ponchos over the guests, and they put these chocolate hats on their heads. I think the whole thing's a bit silly and crazy and ridiculous, but he makes s'mores out of them all, and then he grabs some fiery coals from the fireplace thing there with his bare hands, winces a tiny bit, but he walks into the middle of the whole thing and throws it down. The chef, sets on fire, and all of the rest of the guests there end up setting themselves on fire and melting in this marshmallow and chocolate goo and die. Doesn't really show what happens to the rest of the staff, but the whole building goes up in flames like a giant explosion, so I assume they all burn to death. Which is a horrible way to go. That's not what I would choose, but okay. Aaron is sitting on a boat, watching the flames, eating the rest of her cheeseburger. And that's how the movie ends. I loved it. I loved all the little details, all the little twists and turns. You didn't know what to expect. I thought this movie was going to be kind of basic, like, same old thing made up again. Same story made again and again, where it's like, cannibalistic, chasing after people and killing them to make this fancy dinner, like the Westing game sort of situation. I've seen several movies and TV shows that redid that same theme, but it was different. This was a unique experience. It was twisted, it was messed up, but it was entertaining and crazy, and I had a lot of fun watching this movie. This is probably, I don't know what year this came out exactly, but this is probably definitely my top 5 movies of that year, which I haven't seen any new movies, so we're gonna see where it lines up with the rest of the movies that I've seen that are more recent. That one was really good. And if I was to rate it, I would give it, out of 10 stars, I feel like I would give it 10 stars. Maybe 9 stars. Maybe I'd give it 9 stars out of 10. Just because once you see it once, I do think I'd probably watch it again, but it wouldn't be quite the same because you already know all the twists and turns. And it's a disturbing movie. It's not exactly like, ooh, let's watch this fun movie, popcorn movie. It's a messed up movie, and so it's a little hard to watch in a way. So maybe that's why I give it 9 instead of 10, because 10 is for my absolute favorite movies of all time. 10 is a very high ranking. 9.5, maybe. We'll go with that. 9.5. Well, thank you for sticking around for this review. It's probably very, very long. It's going to take me a long time to edit this. Please like, subscribe, leave comments down below. If you saw this movie, tell me what you thought about it. If you have any suggestions of movies that are similar to this, or you think I would enjoy because I enjoyed this movie, let me know in the comment section. I love movies. I can't wait to see more movies. Have a nice day. Bye.